to episode 31 of the Bithell Games Podcast. I'm Alexander Slawinski.
And I'm Mike Bithell.
Each week we talk games, what it's like to make games, and the random stuff we don't generally find time to talk about because we're playing and or making games. Show notes, Subsurface Circular is out now. Game Dev Business Handbook is available for pre-order with us putting the final touches on it right now. We're doing layout. We're finishing up layout. Dude, making games and books, right, is hard.
I never want to be personally responsible for a book layout again. I'll put it that way. It's mind-numbing. I'm sure the reading experience should be great. It's a really well-written book. It's very fantastic, very useful.
And your layout is lovely.
But man, it took me back to my old days placing loot and crates and various different things all over a level. It's that same feeling of just place a box, fall asleep, place a box, you know.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about this a little. We'll talk about a little bit more about the challenges of being a book publisher and what's going on at the studio in a little bit. But what are you playing?
What am I playing? What am I playing? What have I been playing? I've been playing a bit of Uncharted, the DLC. I'm not far in it yet, but so far so good. So far, Uncharted. There's lots.
Sorry, is it DLC? I thought it was a whole other game.
I think it's a standalone. It's what used to be called like a standalone DLC. I don't think it's as long as a regular Uncharted game. I think it's a more kind of bite-sized budget.
Lost Legacy, right?
Yeah,
with Claudia Black.
Yeah, and she's great, as always. But I don't think it's full length. Maybe it is. But yeah, it's cool. It's got those production values. I really like, actually, there's an emphasis, at least at the start of the game, on melee combat, and the fluidity with which they've got that working while still hitting the kind of production value that they want to go for is fantastic. Like, it's kind of hard sometimes to know am I playing a QTE or am I playing a fight scene? Because it all looks very bespoke, but I'm pretty sure it's reacting to what I'm doing. So it's really nice on that level. So yeah, I'm having a good time with it, but I've only just started it. It's been a busy couple of weeks. I've not played enough video games.
Do you think testing the Last of Us 2 mechanics there with that? Maybe? Possibly? Or you think it's two separate things?
Maybe. I don't know what their structure is, to be honest. I know my understanding in the past has been that they fluidly pass into each other, but to be honest, at this stage, I would assume most of the Last of Us mechanics are in Last of Us and are pretty much there. You mean more from like a consumer reaction point of view, right?
No. I mean, like, because you can see the overlap between Last of Us and Uncharted, like
sure.
in terms of certain angles, animations, that type of stuff.
Yeah, but given where I assume Last of Us is in its production, probably Last of Us has to be at least at alpha, I would have thought. Like, when's Last of Us 2 coming out? Probably next year, right? Probably winter next year? I don't know if they've announced, but I would suspect winter next year. So they must be mechanically pretty sound at this point, I would have assumed.
I was just wondering if they were if they were testing the newer stuff. It's like Blood and Wine with Witcher. Like you can there's definitely stuff in there that doesn't look like it's like it was. I mean, it wasn't part of the Witcher 3 main part, so it seems experimental in terms of Cyberpunk 2077.
Right,
like,
but I think there was a bit
future stuff.
Yeah, I think there was a bit more time involved there, wasn't there, though? Because like Blood and Wine, how long ago did that come out? Like a couple of years ago? A year ago?
I think it's a year ago now.
So like a year ago, and I'm assuming Cyberpunk we're not going to see until...
Don't ask questions like that if I don't have someone that I can look to just off camera.
Google on that, please. Google on that. But so that's more of a couple of years, so that feels more plausible to me, whereas I feel like Last of Us probably, given the production value, given the attention to detail, Last of Us is probably playable from beginning to end at this point. I would assume like it's probably pretty solid, good feeling experience, and now it's just that iteration to get it up to that Naughty Dog level.
Yeah. I have been playing Mario and Rabbids. Continue playing Mario and Rabbids.
Is that awesome? I've been meaning to check it out.
If you are into that style of game, it is awesome.
Okay.
Again, Rabbit Peach, just amazing. if you lose the game with her, she walks off stage like huffing and then just throws her wig. But yeah, there's just so much charm in there, and it's just so fun, and it works. It just works.
I do find Nintendo games charming as hell. What they usually lose me on actually is the retention, is keeping me around. Like, I tend to kind of bounce off them within a few hours. Like, I love them, but like there's not that urge to get back to it. Is that something you think this game does, or?
Yeah, because they do. I was about to say they keep adding more mechanics and more mechanics, but Nintendo always adds more mechanics, right? Like they've got that 3-step thing going for them. But yeah, I'm definitely going to it, and it is focused and contained, but there's also a whole co-op thing too, which is really fun if you've got someone around for co-op, because you gain levels in the normal game and get your weapons and go through your skill tree and everything like that, and then you can do the co-op stuff, which brings all of your items from the single player campaign into the co-op. But there's only so far you can get in the co-op, because the challenges require you to have a certain level of weapon.
Oh, I see.
To get past them. So it really is. It's very solid but methodical in its progression of being able to complete things, which again
makes sense given the genre of game, right? Like, it's a very methodical genre.
But that's the thing, is that like if you've played the last XCOM, like the difficulty spikes are all over the place, and depending on randomization, like you may lose for a really stupid reason, which is that's the stuff that always gets me really upset in those games. It's like, how was I? That's not not fair. But Mario and Rabbids has been consistently fair so far, and yeah, it's great. And now it's time for what's going on at the studio, and I want to talk a little bit about the challenges involved in physical goods, because this is one of those things that I think a lot of folks, including myself, thought, we'll do some physical goods at some point, and it'll be fine. You just you have it manufactured and shipped to a place, and then you slap a stamp on it, put it in a box, and ship it back out again, right?
So this is therapy, basically. This is, you just want to vent for 20 minutes, right?
Hey.
No, that's valid. I'm not knocking it.
I am bringing it up to spare someone else the hassle of potentially having to, at least if they decide to go down this road, they'll be like, hey, remember when Alexander whined for 20 minutes, as you said? It won't be 20 minutes.
I didn't say whined. So it's cautionary tales with Alexander Slawinski.
I think this entire show is cautionary tales with Alexander Slawinski. So all the, we're dealing with this for the book, and we have to, and we've put out physical copies of our games before, but we partnered with Limited Run Games on that.
Yeah,
and
I can professionals who know what they're doing with this stuff. Right.
And I can now state without question that they earned their portion of that job, because it's rough. The real beast in all of this, genuinely, the real beast in all of this, and what's given me. Have you ever heard the term agita?
That's like the thing they're trying to find in the second Indiana Jones movie, right?
Yes. No.
What's an agita?
Like a upset tummy. Like acid reflux.
Oh. No.
Just that not good feeling. The thing that's given me a not good feeling in all of this has been the challenge of shipping. Because right now we've got Canada and we've got the UK right now, and we say just as much on the site where we've got the pre-orders for the books that we're really not happy with how much it's costing.
I think the UK you actually have to get a mortgage for, right, to get delivered. I think that's
and honestly, bless everyone who is from the UK, and still bought the book.
Oh, they're awesome.
Like, did the shit. Like, you are genuinely awesome people, because, like, thank you for that support. And at the same time, oh my God, I'm so sorry about those shipping costs, because they're terrible.
They are terrible.
And it's great that people still want to support the book. And then, you know, it gets tough because you can't reduce the shipping costs until you start going at a massive scale, and
which you can't do until you start shipping. It's
right.
A catch-22, isn't it?
And it's such a weird one, because, you know, when you work with a partner like Limited Run, I've talked with their folks about the challenges of international shipping, because when we were going through all of this, I was like, okay, so how did you do this? And it's an issue of scale. Like, they have enough customers in, you know, particular regions, because they ship globally, that they've had to figure out over the last year, like, what is the best way to make that work for them. And now we're facing pretty much the same challenge, where it's like, okay, how do we do this in terms of logistics? Like, is it sending the books to Futter, who's the author, in the States, and then sending them out from there? Is there a way that we can send it directly? Like, we are still working through all the different challenges of logistics. So it's not manufacturing, and manufacturing is its own challenge, believe me. But manufacturing is not really where my headaches and my sleepless nights are coming from. For me, it is the shipping portion of things. And we're, you know, doing the Amazon stuff, right? Is like, everyone's, oh, well, then just do it through Amazon. Yeah, do it through Amazon. But Amazon also takes a huge cut of you know, everything that of every product that's being put on there. So yeah, we're still pushing through,
and also takes a while to get set up, right? It's not just the cut, because I think, well, from what you're saying, obviously Amazon justify that cost via how easy it is, but there is also a setup time involved with Amazon that we're gonna have to deal with.
Yeah, and there's the logistics of that too, because you still have to handle the manufacturing portion of things, but now you have to take what you've manufactured, get it to their distribution center, and then hopefully you've done all of that right, so that everything goes smooth for the customer on the other side of it.
Well, fortunately for us, the only other company in the world with the name Bithell is a haulage company. So I think there's an opportunity here for some consolidation to take place. I actually think they're a waste management company. So that maybe that won't work. See how the book does, I guess. We'll see which one it goes into, haulage or waste management.
Are you telling me to look into mergers and acquisitions now?
I'm saying we should have some kind of Bithell umbrella.
Okay.
We'll call it Umbrella Corp. It's
never gone wrong.
It's never gone wrong. And it will all be fine. That's my yeah, I think we should make that happen. I don't know if games are where the business is going. I think it's all about haulage now. I think we need to get some trucks.
1, 2, 3. I wanna thank you for reading the Freedom Mail again. Thank you for reading the Freedom Mail again.
Dear Mike and Alexander, I know Mike loves a bit of praise, so we all start with that. You two have done an exceptional job with this podcast. I have learned a great deal from you two over the course of the show. I have especially enjoyed it when you get into the nitty-gritty of various facets of running a game studio. Yes, Alexander, even the less flashy talk of accounting, schedules, and law. I hope to start my own studio one day, and it's great to learn about the potential blind spots I might have.
Sweet.
Secondly, I would like to take a moment to thank you for bringing Hamilton into my life.
If there's one thing I hope that I've done, it's get some genuine nerds into Hamilton. You know, we need Hamilton has caught on in the nerd community in a very big way, and I like to think that I'm at least a tiny part of that.
I was fortunate enough to go to New York recently, and while planning tourist activities, I happened to come across the Broadway lottery. On a whim, my girlfriend and I entered for Hamilton tickets because I had heard you two talk about it on the show a while back. I honestly didn't even know what the show was about. Fortune smiled on us and we won.
Oh, that's
amazing. Saw it, and it blew us away. It was literally life-changing. And these days, whenever I zone out, one of the Hamilton songs starts up. So a big thank you for that.
Oh, that's really cool. We sat next to the people who'd won the lottery on the day where we went to see it, didn't we?
They were so lovely.
They were so
too.
lovely. I came back. I think I went off to buy like every piece of merch they sold, and I came back, and you were just kind of sat chatting with them and everything. It was awesome. They're really sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Oh, it's so cool. That's such a lovely story. That makes me very happy.
Yeah. I'm sure if you go all the way back and listen to that episode, yeah, we talk about it. It was a dude and his fiance. He was getting it like his fiance now, but he kept entering the lottery, and that was the day they won. And he just like calls her up and is like, go home, put on a dress.
We're going to Hamilton. I'm hoping the next line of this email is, by the way, was not a big fan of Subsurface Circular, felt it was a bit ropey. Is that the next line of the email?
No.
Oh, okay.
Now that all of the thank yous are out of the way, it's time to get to the question.
Let's do this! !
Yeah. As I mentioned before, I hope to move into game development and start my own studio. I have taken Mike's advice and started experimenting and working on smaller game projects in my spare time. I think that one of them has real potential and would like to get it out into the big bad world. I think that finding a publisher would most likely be the best move, as there is still a lot I don't know about the games industry. My question is, how do you convince a publisher that you are serious about your game despite the fact that you aren't working on it full time? How do you approach them and get your foot in the door? You mentioned in a previous episode that there is a new wave of boutique publishers. Would they be the right people to approach, or do you think you should look at more established publishers? Also, at what point would you suggest transitioning from your day job to working on game development full time? Sorry for the wall of text. Big thanks and cheers, Ben M. So I will tackle that last portion just from a fiscal responsibility standpoint, and then
Okay.
You can handle the pitching process. So also, at what point do you suggest transitioning from your day job to working on game development full time? When it is covering your bills, when it is covering your life, and you can responsibly balance that world. That doesn't mean that, that's not saying that you're making more than you are right now, or even the same as you are making right now, but cover those bills.
And that might be via a publisher. It might be that a publisher can give you money towards, to pay your own salary, essentially. And I think in that scenario, as long as you've got some financial comfort, maybe some savings as well, just in case everything goes wrong, I feel like, do you think that's fiscally responsible? If a publisher gives you money for a project, do you think it's appropriate then to be able to quit your day job and go work on it full time? Or does it matter? It depends how much money, I guess, doesn't it?
It depends. I mean, if it's that really depends, and it genuinely comes down to what are your responsibilities and who are you responsible to.
That's true as well. Yeah, we don't know if the emailer has a family or other responsibilities they have to take care of. But yes, essentially what Alexander says, at the point where you are financially comfortable to do so. With me, it was I had enough money in the bank to cover a year's salary. That was my line. And at that point, I had no dependencies. I lived with my partner who works, so it wasn't, it was as long as I could basically make the same salary I was on, then it was fine. And that was the point where I made Thomas Was Alone while having a job, and then stepped out then.
And you also live in a country where the health risks to you,
of course,
minimal.
Sorry, that always has to be said. Yeah, absolutely. There's obviously many safety nets in the UK. Less and less by the hour, but
that is definitely an episode. Another
that's
time.
an episode, isn't it? Yeah, that's an episode. We'll get accused of being too political. So
boutique publishers versus traditional, like, yeah. I have a very hard time imagining if this is your first time out, and unless you have something, and you might very well, because I mean we've seen it before. Yeah. Unless you have something just mind blowing, it is incredibly difficult. It is generally difficult to get in front of your EAs and your Take-Twos and everything like that, and even in those cases,
or even platform holders,
right? Or platform holders, and even in those cases, it depends on where we are in the cycle, right? Like, and when I say that, I mean there are moments where platform holders and these mega AAAs decide to go, hey, this indie thing, let's invest in that and see how see how that's going.
And then they lose all their money. And then they don't do it for a few years, and then they get it into their heads to try it again. I think, but also, as well as what you're saying there, I don't know, because the big thing with pitches, and I think a lot of people miss this, is there's two key elements. There's the game and the idea, and there's the studio and its ability to execute. And those two things, I think, ultimately are what a publisher cares about when you're talking to them about your game. So I think
this doesn't come up enough in Dragon's Den in the UK, but it definitely comes up a lot in Shark Tank in the States.
The people, right?
The people,
yeah,
is investing in people instead of investing in the ideas.
And I think probably the balance is probably skewed with publishing more towards the idea, simply because they're not actually investing in the company; they're investing in the production of this game. But you do have to demonstrate to them that you're going to be able to make the thing you're talking about, and that you're going to know how to deal with that. So as a first-time developer, you're on the back foot, because even if you did have an idea that was, that to hear it would blow everyone's minds and is a revolutionary idea, publishers will be very skeptical of your ability to execute because they've not seen you ship a game before. So they can't, we walk into rooms and we can point to several games we've released. We can show that we can actually release a game on time, on budget, and get it to different platforms and all this kind of stuff. So we have a certain cachet in meetings that it's kind of taken as read. If we give these people money, they will ship the game. You're in a tougher spot because you haven't got that demonstrable proof. So I think that's factor one, and that's something to definitely bear in mind. And I think that probably does put you more in the boutique kind of publisher end of things. The next question is whether your game idea is good. From a pitching perspective, the idea is very important. I would say in this day and age, you need playable. You need to be able to show them a prototype. And the prototype needs to be very impressive.
Especially first time out.
First time out, yeah. Because an idea, because, everyone, of every skill level has had a chat down the pub with their mates about a great idea for a game, right?
I come to Mike with an idea once every couple months, and he politely listens and everything like that. But it doesn't mean he's going to give me a team to go off and do it. Like there is.
You come to me with the right one, Alexander. No, I think you've got to demonstrate the fun, because I think any idea can sound entertaining and interesting. You have to kind of be able to show. Especially nowadays. It wasn't always that way because it used to be the game's much harder to make, but frankly, there's no excuse now for not having a prototype of your game. The tools are there, they're available, they're often free at the point where you need to be doing stuff at a prototype level. So, you're going to need a prototype. You're going to be able to show someone a thing that's playable, and that thing's going to have to be fun. That thing's going to have to be kind of able to demonstrate both the idea, but also, frankly, because of your lack of previous projects, you have to show that you can actually finish the game. So do the less obvious stuff. Make sure it's got a menu screen. Make sure it's got a save system if it's something that's got that kind of thing. Make sure it's got settings where you can go in and change the music and sound effects volume. Those kind of things go a long way to making a game feel, quote unquote, like a real game.
And that's and I want to emphasize that part because it's super weird, but it's super true at the same time.
I've played so many indie games that are genuinely great, and you pause them, and there is no main menu effectively. There is no settings screen. And it's weird. And you think, well, it stops it feeling like a game. And it's so strange, and it's
Well, also, if you're talking to the biz dev person and they want the file to show around at their office to run it by the other members of the team, like the people who they're showing stuff to are more like me and less like Mike. Like they're not
going to see the potential so much as the thing that's plonked down in front of their faces, which is fair enough. And I think people, if Alexander wants to make the dichotomy, you need people like me, but you do also need people like Alexander, because people like me will go, no, it's going to be great. You can absolutely see it. And Alexander's like, no, that looks horrible. And you do need both of those. So definitely get your prototype up to a level where you can show it. It should feel almost, I mean, the examples of first-time devs who I know who've got publishers, it's always been that basically they've got a demo. They've got essentially 20 minutes of like the bit of their game that people want to show off. And then the publisher goes, yes, we can absolutely financially support this to get the rest of the content, and then do marketing. That's something you can add. That's a very easy line for them to draw with when you're talking with publishers, platform holders, anyone. Your job is to make their job easier. You should be trying to remove any ambiguities, any confusion on their part. Just make sure they have ideas put in front of them that they can absolutely. It's easy. That, like, why wouldn't they do this? In terms of getting in touch with those boutique publishers, a lot of them are super visible and on social media. People like the one that comes immediately to mind is Callum from Raw Fury. Let me find his Twitter handle while we talk. He was at Oculus. He's a very cool chap. Callum,
it's Callum, it's David Martinez, it's Hamza.
So at Twitter, DevRel Callum is a good person. Hamza, what's Hamza's Twitter handle?
Oh, I mean, they're all Raw Fury. So
Raw Fury is an interesting one that's coming up. Devolver are cool, but Devolver are maybe a little less obvious how to get in touch with them. But you can do some Googling and you can find them. It makes sense to find these people sometimes at events. If you're near somewhere and you can kind of get into an event or get around an event, then you can often find ways to meet people. Also your peers. If you've got friends who are developers and maybe they're a bit more established than you and you trust them, you can send them a build of your game and get feedback and ask them about publishers that they've worked with, or find out. There are definitely, that's the secondary part, is ask around about any publishers you think of maybe working with. Just ask around. Some publishers have very good reputations, some the other thing. So ask around and find out how people have done, and then find a deal that allows you to make your game where you feel that there's the opportunity that you can build a business off the back of it, and good luck. I mean, if your game's awesome and you can present it well, that's most of the fight.
So Ben sent us that email a little while back. He actually sent us a new one recently, and I just want to hit this again because it kind of relates.
I have given up on game development. Hamilton, the more I think about Hamilton, the more I realize it is ultimately kind of a very weird and politically dodgy show with some morality in it that I can't possibly agree with. I'm really angry at Mike for encouraging me and my girlfriend to go and see it. And I'm now a tailor. Is that what the email says?
No. Hi, Mike, Alexander, and Mr. Bithell. This book that you have created looks incredible and is exactly the thing I need right now, especially since I am very seriously planning on trying to transition into game development and starting my own studio. I can imagine this book will make my life easier.
Oh, that's cool.
From what I have gathered, the hard copy will not be shipped to South Africa. Is there any way around this? I would prefer to buy it directly from you instead of waiting until it is available on Amazon. That way I know I'm maximizing my support of the Bithell Games team, as I am a big fan of your collective works. If this is not possible, I will still be purchasing the digital copy, but it will definitely be sad to miss out on that new book smell. I hear it even has a hint of sandalwood to it. Thanks for your time.
There is no sandalwood. That was a promise we're going to have to back up on. We're very sorry to our early Kickstarter backers, but we will not be able to achieve sandalwood with the project.
We didn't do Kickstarter.
We should have done Kickstarter.
But there is a chapter.
Then we could have let people down without the sandalwood.
But there is a chapter on Kickstarter and crowdfunding in the book. No, seriously, thank you, Ben, for the support. Yes, for now, please do what's right for you. digital copy is fine, and we will endeavor to make the hardcover available in global regions. Moving on. Hello, Alexander. Parenthetical.
How do they spell hello, or have you invented? That was a very extravagant hello, and I'm just wondering, is that in the original email? It's very important to get the tone right, I think, with these.
HELLO.
Okay, so they didn't do. You did a very extravagant hello, and I just wanted to make sure that whether they had done that themselves. It's okay. Let's carry on.
I'm sorry for calling you Alex in my last email. As penance, I have both attempted to annoy Mike with my greeting and written in with a business question. I've been adequately convinced by the two of you and others that if I'm releasing a game, I should talk to a lawyer. My question is, when and how seriously should I pursue legal counsel as someone who is, as of right now, just a hobbyist? As I mentioned in my previous email, I'm planning on using the games I make as portfolio pieces to apply for jobs in the industry, so it seems smart to protect my work. But is it worth, for example, forming an LLC for games I'm not even sure I'll charge for? I realize there are too many variables to give a single concrete answer. I'm just looking for any kind of guidelines for when having legal protection becomes important. Thanks, Josh. So Josh, the sort of first thing is having an LLC or creating any type of company, whether that's you're in the UK, you make a limited company, or I would have been really swift right now if I'd pulled out what the German word for a limited company is, because it's so long.
It's company building mit or
don't,
without.
No, please,
no,
it's
like
it's
probably like 50 syllables long.
Gesellschaft or something like that. Anyway,
Alexander's German, so it's okay for him to make German jokes. Carry on.
That wasn't a German joke. I couldn't remember what the word is.
I'm just keeping us clear. It
wasn't a German joke. I can't remember
I've just played it safe.
It's GmbH, but I don't remember what it stands for. Anyway, you bring it up in terms of protecting the sort of assets of. I would bring it up more from a. You bring it up in terms of a legal perspective. I would bring it up more from a tax perspective and from a tracking perspective than anything else, because having a separate entity allows you to note that these funds went into developing this game, and then you are able to use that for tax purposes at the end of your fiscal year, whatever it ends up being. So it's that's sort of the first main reason to set up a company. But yes, there are also legal protections that come along with that. And yes, like is it worth talking to a lawyer? Sure, it's worth talking.
They're
to
often
a lawyer.
lovely people.
Yeah, they don't let them fool you. They actually are lovely people. But yeah, it is worth talking to an attorney, just getting an idea of, and I also don't know how many things you've made or how far along they are. But yeah, I mean, how do you feel about this, Mike?
It's a tough one, because I think all of your advice is right. At the same time, I personally would say, but it might be fine. Right. and that's always the challenge with legal advice and with business advice.
And that's why I'm sort of hemming and hawing here a little bit. And he even notes it, right? Like he even says there are too many variables for a single concrete answer, and that's kind of where we are on this.
I mean,
one.
the reality that I didn't set up a company. Did we set up a company? When did we set up a company? I set up a company much later, and I guess my point is that there is wiggle room on some of this stuff. You are definitely making a choice.
Hold on. Don't go too far here, because yes, you set up a company, but then it took me almost a year, like to resort everything out.
Correct.
In the way it need, like, and I'm not,
But we did, didn't we? That's my point. Is like it's like insurance. I think that's the way to think about this. It's like insurance. I have insurance on my home. So far, I've never been burgled and no fire has happened. I could have not bothered with insurance and I would have a bit more money in my pocket. Or but then also I could have had 5 fires in my flat between now and when I got it. So for me, I think I'm an example in terms of what Bithell Games is and what your role in Bithell Games is this is a very specific example of a company that hit a level where the problems got so big that an Alexander had to exist. And I think if you are doing this more as a kind of building up a portfolio of games to show off to future employers, but your objective is to go and work at Ubisoft, I'm not sure you need to do a company, because it's not. It's a problem you can solve after the fact, and what you're saying about like taxation and stuff, and you know, charging it to the company. Yeah, if we're talking about games that have budgets and are, you know, have team members and have all this stuff, then yeah. But if this is like, you know, like me with Thomas, where it's just me pottering around for the first couple of years, and then we probably need a soundtrack, maybe need a voice actor. That's the point, I think, where things can get a bit more professional. There is wiggle room. Yeah, there is. I don't think you need to do it, but I also think that if you don't do it, you have to acknowledge that you are taking on some risk. By making that decision.
And the first sort of risk that comes to my mind is, okay, so say you are a sole proprietor, right? You haven't set up a company, you haven't done anything like that, and one of your little hobby projects is a little bit better than all the rest, and so you decide to bring in an artist or bring in someone into the project, and you decide you come up with a verbal agreement because you've never listened to this show, and
get in writing.
Yeah, like at least have an email.
Yeah.
So you make a verbal agreement, and the game gets put together, and you say goodbye to that person. They disappear, and you put that out on Steam, and holy begiggles, you've got you've got an income now, right? We're not talking millions, but let's say thousands or even tens of thousands. And then this person shows up again and says, well, you've credited me in the game. Where's my portion of it? And you go, what are you talking about? We never did. Now, because you're not a company, because you're a person, they can go after you directly and your assets. Whereas if you had established a company and put that game out as part of the company, they could go after the company and not necessarily you. Now, this is the type of stuff that I'm not a lawyer, and you should, go through those scenarios with a lawyer. And that is where, even in a hobby situation, having some kind of counsel to be able to talk to, who is reasonably cost, and has a basic understanding of this stuff would be helpful. And that's why there is no concrete answer here, but there are plenty of scenarios where lawyer does make a lot of sense.
It does. That's fair. I think it's, yeah. Do you want to get insurance or not? And I think not getting insurance, given that it's a hobby thing, might make sense for you, but that's something you have to make a decision. But yeah, Alexander's giving the grown-up advice. He's absolutely right. I think maybe there's some wiggle room, so that's all I'm expressing. But definitely, we're not lawyers or accountants, so take it all as such.
Yeah, and I will emphasize here, there is a lot of wiggle room here. There is no one answer, but going through the motions and having those conversations, especially if you can afford it. And that's the other part of this I should be very clear about. If you have a really good job and everything is fine with you, and spending a couple grand on having an LLC set up.
Is that how much it costs in America to set up a company?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, over here it's like 30 quid.
I mean, you could do LegalZoom or something along those lines, but I would still go through an attorney. But it isn't.
Oh, over here it's much simpler. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's not. It's definitely not $30.
It's definitely under 100.
No. I mean, in like to do it right in the States.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Here it is. Here it definitely is. Yeah.
Because here, here being the UK,
hello.
It is. We're dealing with one nation, whereas in the States, you're dealing with. You can set up your entity in various states, and the tax implications of those various states are different.
For sure. Sorry, I'm not. That makes sense. That makes sense.
No. You're right. Like you can absolutely do it on the cheap, but I want to tell this story right now, but I can't. I have a friend. I have a friend who...
Is that friend's name Alexander?
It might be. who recently
joined a company with a British guy. Let's call him Mickey.
No. Who recently went through an acquisition. His company was acquired, and it was established in a state that has more complicated rules and tax structures than another state does. Uh-huh. And I'm going to let you finish yawning.
I'm literally yawning as you tell this story. Carry on, it's riveting.
You leave that in, Jonathan. I'm telling you right now. But yeah, there were complications because of the way the company was set up, and it made for a little bit more mess. That's it. It's about not having a messy time. It's about sleeping well at night, and that's what I like to do. I like to
Which
sleep
is easier
well
to do in an insured apartment.
Yep. If you have a burning question about games, game development, or just about the complexities of the universe, you can send those questions to us via contact@BithelGames.com. That's contact@BithelGames.com, through the YouTube comments of this show, or on Twitter by pinging @MikeBithell or @Slewinski. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Bithell Games Podcast. We can always use your support, so please provide reviews and 5 stars on iTunes, likes and subscribes on YouTube, and positive reinforcement on whatever other platforms you're hearing this show on whenever possible. This podcast was produced by Jonathan Down, and we'll be back next week. Actually, are we back next week?
I have no idea.
Oh, you're so... Wait, hold on.
We can do, because I get back from Portugal, and then this isn't podcast talk.
Oh, no, this is totally podcast talk.
Is it?
Okay, so yes, so we have Dice.
Yeah, and Dice. I'm in Portugal till I come back on Wednesday. Then I've got Thursday back here. Then I go to Ireland on the Friday. So we'll record for Thursday next week. That'll work.
Okay, and then we have EGX the following week,
which we can probably do from the road, can't we?
Yeah, we can do that on the road. Okay, so yeah, it's a busy few weeks.
It's boring. Yeah, I'm already tired.
We will be back next week. I'm Alexander Slewinski. Thanks again, and get in the last word, Mike.
Cathedral.